Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your thumbs up. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And this video is for Black immigrants to the United States who try to define Black Americans. I'm saying you can't define us, and I'm saying it as nicely and politely as I can. It's not your job to define us, and you can't define us, so stop. There's a question that a lot of Black Americans are asking right now. Why do some Black immigrants keep trying to define who we are? It's not all of them, so I want to make that clear, not all, but it's enough that it has become a pattern. And I don't think the answer is about hate. I'm hoping it's not about hate. I think it's about misinformation, insecurity on their part, and the shock of discovering the truth of who we are once they get here. So let's talk about it. The general consensus is that many Black immigrants arrive to the United States with a preloaded definition of who Black Americans are. So they come here already believing they know who we are, not because they've met us, but because they were taught stereotypes, misinformation, colonial narratives, and media distortions. And we already know that the American media has not done us any favors. American movies, global news, and old colonial school systems paint Black Americans as lazy, uneducated, violent. And that's interesting too. We're violent. If that wasn't such a flagrant lie, it would be funny. I don't say there's not some violence in Black America, but nothing compared to what it is in other places. And for some reason, Black immigrants arrive here thinking that we are culturally lost. So when they arrive, they don't come to learn who Black Americans are. They come to confirm what they were told. That's the first problem. Now, the second thing about them trying to tell us who we are is that defining us seems to give them a sense of control. Immigration is destabilizing, and that's not hard to understand. People lose their status, they lose what's familiar. In many cases, they lose their identity and they lose community. So some cope by defining Black Americans as the bottom, the problem, the ones we're not like. It's a psychological strategy. If I can define you, they seem to think, I don't have to confront my own insecurity in this new country. And I think that's something we should sit with for a minute. They define us so they don't have to confront their own insecurity. Because no matter how high status they think they are when they're in their homeland, when they come here, it's a whole new game. America appears to reward immigrants for distancing themselves from Black Americans. And this is the part that people rarely say out loud. But in the United States, immigrants quickly learn that employers, professors, neighbors, institutions often respond positively when they say, we're not like Black Americans. We work harder. We don't complain. So defining Black Americans becomes a survival tactic for some because they think it will help them to fit in. What they don't factor in is that that thing can switch around and then they become the target, just like they are now with this deportation. So it's really not a safe strategy. It might be a survival tactic for the moment, but it's not a safe strategy. So many immigrants arrived in America only knowing Black Americans through music, sports, and entertainment. So they assume that's all we are. But they soon discovered that Black Americans are inventors, engineers, architects, scientists, designers of buildings, cars, furniture, and other things. We are political thinkers and organizers. So when they find out who we really are, it disrupts the narrative that they were taught. Some respond with curiosity, and we see that. We see Africans being curious about who we are once they come into the understanding that what you were taught back home was not the truth. But others respond with defensiveness. They want to hold on to the stereotypes. They want to believe what they were taught because maybe, just maybe, it makes them feel safe or safer. But for the Black immigrants who are curious, they are surprised to learn that they were never taught that Black Americans built the Capitol in Washington, D.C., the White House, Wall Street, the Southern economy, the labor movement, and the civil rights framework that protects everybody. They are here with the rights that they have, due process, and equal protection under the law because of us. They don't get that, and you can't make some of them believe that, but it's really the truth. They weren't taught that Black Americans invented the microphone, the traffic light, the gas mask, invented the blood bank, invented refrigerated trucks, designed major cities, pioneered countless technologies, and it just goes on and on. The list goes on and on. Even with the light bulb, it was a Black American scientist who discovered the carbon filament that gives the bulb the sustaining light. Carbon filament is in the bulb to this day. A Black American invented that. So these discoveries didn't just help Americans. These discoveries don't just help Americans. These discoveries help people all over the world. There are many, many more. It's shocking what Black Americans have discovered and created in this country, things that don't have anything to do with music and sports. So when people come here with those preloaded stereotypes about Black Americans, it's a shock to their system when they discover that we are not just culture, we are infrastructure, as in foundational. So we ain't who you thought we were. So if Black immigrants believed the media distortion of Black Americans in their homeland, then it's understandable that when they got to America, they expected Black Americans to be insecure, resentful, and threatened, maybe even by them, because they work so hard. But instead, what they find in Black Americans is confidence, clarity, cultural grounding, pride, and self definition. Black Americans don't need to be defined by anyone. And that confidence can be threatening to people who are still figuring out their own identity in America. So I guess they want to say that I'm going to tell you who you are so I'll know who I am. But that's the incorrect message. All they need to do is figure out their place in America and stay in it. And I'm trying to imagine the mindset of some immigrants who come to the United States from Africa or the Caribbean. And they sometimes come from countries with political instability, economic hardship, limited infrastructure, and limited opportunity. And when they arrive in the United States and see Black Americans thriving despite 400 years of oppression in the name of slavery, that some of them like to call out, it does create a painful contradiction. Some of them respond with admiration, some of them respond with resentment. Trying to define Black Americans becomes a way to avoid confronting that contradiction. And that's what they are going to have to work on. Because the reality check always comes. Once immigrants actually meet Black Americans, work with us, and learn our history, they discover the stereotypes were lies, the narratives were false, and the people they try to define are far more accomplished, resilient, and foundational than they ever knew. Black Americans are not who people say we are. Black Americans are who history proves us to be. And that is a lesson that they have to learn if they open their minds to it. So, why do some Black immigrants try to define Black Americans? Well, I've got some thoughts on the subject. Because they were taught misinformation. In other words, they were taught lies about us because they are navigating insecurity. They're in a foreign land and they haven't found their footing yet because America rewards distancing. Yes, America does reward distancing, but when it comes time to deport, they'll see how much good that did. They also try to define us because they don't know our full history and they confuse our visibility with our identity, and because they're still finding their place here in America. None of those reasons mean anything because they're still trying to define people, and that's not their job. Black Americans don't need to be defined by anybody. We define ourselves, and we always have. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about this video. Thank you for listening and have a great evening.